Welcome back. This is Metropole Business Center. My name is Stephen KIMANI, and on this part of the break, we take a look at what this year holds with regard to technology. And indeed, 2020 will not only be remembered as a year of the COVID-19 pandemic, it will also be remembered as a year that forced many governments and businesses to turn to technology to keep going amid the new normal that introduced social distancing as a means of controlling the spread of the COVID-19 virus. So what does 2021 hold with regard to technology and its application to our daily lives? To discuss this and more, I'm joined live by HARE, Chairman and Publisher of CIO East Africa. Good morning, HARE.
Good morning, Stephen. Thank you for having me on this program today.
Very well, it is indeed a pleasure to host you on Metropole Business Center. Let's begin with a bit of a retro look at the year 2020. From where you sit within the ICT space, what are some of the key lessons that you saw businesses learning from the COVID-19 pandemic, especially with regard to the application of ICTs and technology in general?
I think businesses were faced with unprecedented challenges. A lot of businesses found themselves not able to continue with what they're doing. They were faced with a situation where they had to rethink their strategies, re-engage their stakeholders, be it customers or be it staff, to relook at their businesses and then rethink of how they're going to move forward. So as you know, by March, most of the time you find that businesses have already set up their plans, they have their numbers ready, they have their strategies on how they're going to go to market with what products they're going to push to the market. Then all of a sudden, boom, and nothing can move. So businesses had to go back and rethink, reimagine their businesses. And I think one of the key lessons from 2020 is that things can change so abruptly that you're completely blindsided. But because you're blindsided, it doesn't mean that you can't continue. So you just need to roll back, re-strategize, and then move forward. I think that's what we saw a lot of businesses doing, and a lot of businesses actually came out okay, given the situation. So I think there were a lot of lessons, but most of it is about resilience, is about reimagining how you're doing things, is about re-engaging customers, and that plans can change very abruptly.
Indeed, that's really the key lesson I think most businesses have learned, and I think the media industry really has had to bear the brunt and also learn how to be resilient amidst change. But probably let's just cast our eyes forward, particularly within this year. What do you see as the key technological trends that we are going to witness in 2021?
I think from where I sit, I see quite a bit of technology, and I see a lot of people trying to do different things. But I think for this year, there's a big animal in the room. I think you know about data and how different companies are using data, and the laws that are now coming into play, where governments and the regulators in different jurisdictions are talking about now managing how we use data, especially personal information data. In Kenya, as you know, the data law is now running. We have a data commissioner who is now sensitizing people on how they should engage with, or how they should handle personal data. So data will be big, I know, both from a regulatory point of view, but also businesses are also going to be leveraging data. So it will be interesting to see that balance. How do you use that data legally without infringing on anybody's rights, but also use that data to leverage and get ahead in your business? So that would be a very interesting thing to watch. I think AI is going to go mainstream. we've seen a lot of AI applications coming up. Different people are using AI to do different things, from home automation to getting your robots to do different things. So there's a whole movement about AI and what they call now responsible AI, where you're talking about technology not for doing bad, but technology for good. So I'm seeing AI becoming a big thing. Internet of Things, I think that one also will go into mainstream. We should see new applications, especially around, if you're to look at the home setting, you start seeing more TVs which are more intelligent. When you walk in front of it, it comes on, or when you go into a room, the lights come on. The same in offices as well, where the security systems will be very AI and the IoT driven. So we should be seeing a lot of AI stuff coming up as well. The other big trend, I think, is it's going to be with us for a long time, and that's cloud. Cloud is not going anywhere. So a lot of people will be now moving a lot of their applications, even core applications, will start going into the cloud. Like, for instance, one of the big things about cloud, the banking sector has been very hesitant, for instance, to move their core banking systems into the cloud. But we're seeing now there's a few guys are starting to move some of the core applications into the cloud. So I think those are the key, that from where I see it, that those are the ones I see probably taking center stage in 2021.
Very well. Tourism and travel, event management, those are some of the sectors that I come to mind when you think about the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I would like to pick your mind on what you see, how you see technology remodeling how these industries will be performing, how we travel, how we go to destinations, how we hold events. What role do you see technology playing?
It's a big one, Stephen. That because you see, like, so we run an events company, and yeah, we were one of the highly impacted businesses. That our events company was highly impacted because we couldn't have physical events, and that's where our bread and butter used to be. But we had to innovate. So we again, like every other company, we went back. We did a rollback, say, okay, so this is happening. Yeah, COVID is here with us probably for another 2-3 years. Who knows? So what do we do? And so we completely moved all our events into virtual events. So we do all our events virtually. Now there's talk of people doing hybrid events. So you have part of the event in a physical location where you observe the protocols as they provided by the Ministry of Health, but also you have a wider, probably a bigger audience online. So that's what we've been doing. And guess what? A lot of these things happen, and you feel you see the negativity around them, but there's a silver lining in all these things, because you see, like, for instance, now we can actually easily have people from different regions joining our events without them having to travel, or without them having to spend money for accommodation and all that. So it's yin and yang. It's good and bad. So it's not entirely bad. So innovation in events, innovation is critical. A lot of the guys who are doing events now, they need to rethink their businesses. We have reskilled, retooled into a virtual events business. Travel is tricky, and travel is tricky not just because of but it's fun. It's funny how So I traveled the other day, and I was at the airport, and there was all social distancing, 2 meters away from each other, and the people at the airport are very strict about it. But then when you get into the aircraft, you're all like sardines again. So I was like, okay, so what was that? Is that just for sure or what? But yeah, so travel will be impacted. But there's also technologies that are coming up where, you know, for instance, there's a lot of proximity stuff, and that is AI and the IoT. So instead of you going and there's this guy who has to take your temperature, there's the, you know, you just pass through a gate and the gate takes your temperature and whatever it is. But travel, I think, we have a long way because of the nature, especially international travel. You have to be in that aircraft, and you know, and then the vaccination times, you know, and those times are becoming shorter and shorter because it used to be 96 hours. Now I think it's down to about 48 hours. So if you're doing a connection from Nairobi, say to New York or to Brazil, you'll be caught up in between there as you're doing your connections. Though some airports have also started offering vaccination services and test, sorry, not vaccination, but test services. So you go to like Dubai now, I think when you land in Dubai, you can do another test, which will give you another 48 hours. So travel is where now there's a lot of impact there. So it's going to be a restricted area for a few months, maybe into a year.
Very well. Let's take a look at now the labor market. There's a survey that I highlighted earlier that was done by PricewaterhouseCoopers, in which it basically says that automation is increasingly going to change the job market. And indeed, about 55% of the respondents were saying that they fear that their jobs will disappear as a result of automation. And I'm just wondering, what are some of the tech skills that job seekers now need to have? For somebody who's coming out of school today, what do they need to have in mind if they are to survive in this new environment where automation and technology is taking over?
So I think there's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of miscommunication as well. And remember, these surveys are done, and you know, it's a collection of information from different people, and then you make a certain deduction. So yes, automation is big. There's a lot of in business, a lot of processes are being automated, and this is you know, from, think of any industry. There's automation going on. But if you look at what is being automated, and I think that's where, this is where now the information gets sort of fuzzy. If you look at what is being automated, is mostly the mundane stuff. So the things that people do on a day-to-day, which they're very repetitive, and you don't need a lot of thinking around them. So if it's a, you know, if it's keying in data, and you know, you have all these forms that are coming through, and you have to key in the data. So every day you go into the office to key data. So those are the things that are being automated now. If you look at say in marketing, say for instance marketing, and you're doing a marketing campaign, and so you're sending probably emails to like 1,000 people, and they, you know, so you, based on whatever the reaction to those people, then you have to send them a notification to say that, hey, we've received your email. That doesn't need thinking. It needs to be automated. Somebody has received the email. We need to acknowledge that they've received that email. It doesn't have somebody doesn't have to sit down and do that. So those are the things. If you go deep and look at the things that are being automated, it's not the things that, you know, require you to sit in a war room, so to speak, and strategize. So this is where I think the information, it gets fuzzy. It gets fuzzy. So we need to look at what is being automated versus what are the skills that people have. Then now, when you look at now for the future, it's those technologies I was talking about. People need to, you know, guys who are coming into the industry They need to be to know about AI. They need to know machine learning, data. How do you use data for whatever it is? People need to think about the cloud. The cloud is not going anywhere. So you know, in the private sector, there's this thing people talk about being a multitasked somebody. So it's not multitasking, but you can, or
multi-skilled.
You have so many skills, multi-skilled. You need to be multi-skilled. So if you're a marketing person, you need to know tech. You need to know tech. You need to be able to use technology to do your marketing. If you're an accountant, you need to understand the basic technologies that will help you with your accounting. If you're a lawyer, the same. So I think what is going to change is that these professions are not going anywhere. Yeah, but now we need to infuse tech into them, and that's how I see the future.
Right. So it's really about a multi-skilled environment. That's
Yes.
And seeing how technology applies to your workspace.
Correct.
Very well. Let's take a look at cybersecurity. It's become a growing issue of concern. And I'm just wondering how you see the cybersecurity landscape changing this year. Are we going to see tighter policies, for example, like we've seen in the United States, where increasingly large or big tech companies are coming under the government scrutiny?
Security is going to be a thorn in the flesh, like it has been always. But now it's going to take probably an even bigger dimension, because if you look at, just as we said, a lot of people are now have found a place in the digital world. So we're putting a lot of stuff into the digital space. Now this means that, you know, there'll be a lot more people to sort of hack for the hackers, and a lot of people don't actually build their businesses online with the security mind, and I think that is a messaging that we need to tell people. So when you're moving your business from your brick and mortar into the physical realm, into the online realm, you need to be aware that they're bad guys, just like in the brick and mortar. They're the guys who, if you leave your door open, they will come and they'll steal from you. It's the same thing when you come into the online world. So I'm seeing cybersecurity being a big thorn. And remember also, a lot of you see, like for instance, banks. I like using banks because they're the ones who are using a lot of tech. But if you look at banks, banks used to cordon their LAN, their local area network. They used to cordon it. So unless you're in the bank, you cannot, you won't be able to get into the corporate LAN, so to speak. Yeah. So you had to get into the bank. Then now once you're in the bank, then you can get into the LAN and then transact, use the applications that the bank is using. But now with COVID, what banks had to do is, because everybody's working from home, so they had to open up their LANs to people who are outside the bank. So the staff, it's staff who are outside the bank, but then that opens up a massive hole, because now you have, unless you're very equipped, sometimes you may not know your ID, you may not be able to actually control everybody who comes into the bank. And because people were moving so rapidly, it became it became a big problem. And that, if you remember, I think around April, May, June last year, there was a lot of cases of fraud within the banking sector. And that was because these guys opened up because they had to, because people had to continue working from home and accessing the corporate LAN from outside. So that gave them a lot of challenges. But I think a lot of them now have sort of patched those things, and they're becoming wiser, and they know who's coming, and creating new ways to keep the bad guys out. So that is one bit of the story. The other thing is, if you look at the reports that are coming out, a lot of fraud in the bank is not actually from outside. It's actually internal. So how do you secure your internal? Because you see, it's easy to put a perimeter and make sure that it's impenetrable. Nobody can come in. But now when the guys who are stealing from you are inside the organization, then how do you protect that? And that's why now there are new strategies like what they call zero trust. So, authentication is like every time, everywhere, anything, you have to be authenticated. So zero trust is a new thing that is being pushed by a lot of the security people, security vendors. So security is going to be a big one. And all businesses that have moved their businesses online, this is something that they need to take into cognizance. They need to build their businesses from the ground up, thinking security.
Which leads me to my final question in our conversation, really. What should businesses therefore be thinking about as they adapt or take in technology into their processes beyond security?
So sorry, I didn't get that.
I'd like to find out from you, really, as we conclude, how should businesses therefore retool themselves in terms of adopting technology? What should they be considering?
Okay, so it's simple. We always say, in the technology world, we always say, you see, technology is not for the sake of technology. You need to use technology to do something. So technology is a tool. And that's why there's this whole concept about retooling. So how I see businesses they need to just go back and look at what is important to their businesses. What is important for them to do? How do they serve their customers? How do they acquire their customers? How do they deliver to their customers? Because those are the key things that a business does. You're looking at customer acquisition. You're looking at serving your customers. You're looking at delivering whatever. If it's a product, then how do you do your product? How do you build your product, and then now take it to the market? So those are the critical areas where businesses that's business really. So then look at how can technology accelerate or make these processes more efficient, or support these processes so that you can be able to get to the market faster than your competition. Because you see, at the end of the day, technology gives you that edge. And if you pick the right technology, you'll be able to now be ahead of the pack. You'll be able to be more competitive, probably more efficient in terms of time and resources, and therefore you can win your industry. So it's about looking at the processes, the things that they do as a business, what makes them a business. Then now look at what technologies can help us to become more efficient and to use to get to the market faster than anybody else. So it's really an introspective process before, because you see the danger is businesses running to go and buy technology. But what are you buying that technology for?
Very well, and that's a very useful insight to bear in mind. I mean, what are you using it for, and how is it helping you get into the market and interact with your customers? Thanks a lot, Harry, for your insights.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having you. It's always fun talking to you.
Very well. It's been a pleasure speaking to you as well.
Cheers, man. Take care. Good day.
Good day to you. Very well. I've been speaking with HARE, the chairman and publisher of CIO East Africa, on what 2021 holds as far as technology is concerned. Indeed, he's shared quite a number of insights into what we should be looking out for and how businesses can make use of technology to propel their business and services forward. And at that point, we'll take a short break. After this break, we'll get into the gadget review segment. This is Metropole Business Center.